This story is very sad, but through it you will also learn English. It will teach you how hope is born even in darkness. It's not just a story, it's a lesson about life, loss, and light. Listen carefully. Feel every word and learn English through emotion. Asterisk, asterisk, my name is Rahan, and this is the story of how I lost everything and how, somehow, I found hope again. I was 18 when my whole world shattered. One accident, one night, one moment, and everything changed forever. It was raining that evening, not a gentle rain, but a heavy, angry storm that shook the windows and echoed through the narrow streets of our small town. The sky was dark, almost black, and thunder rolled like a warning from above. My mother had gone out to buy medicine for my sick grandfather. Before leaving, she smiled and said, "Rahan, I'll be back in 20 minutes. Take care of Nana until I return." She never came back. A speeding truck hit her car at the crossing. By the time we reached the hospital, it was too late. The next time I saw her, she was lying so still, her face peaceful, almost glowing, as if she was only asleep. But she never opened her eyes again. After her death, the house turned silent. The walls that once echoed with laughter now echoed with pain. I stopped talking. I stopped laughing. Even breathing felt heavy. Every corner of our home reminded me of her. Her perfume still floated in the air. Her slippers still waited by the door. Her cup of tea still sat half full on the table, as if she would return any second to finish it. My father tried to stay strong for me, but I saw the cracks in his eyes, the hidden tears at midnight. Every night he sat near her photograph, staring at it for hours, whispering softly. Once, I heard him say, "Rayan, your mother wanted you to be strong. Don't lose yourself, son." But I already had. Days turned into weeks. I stopped going to school. I didn't talk to my friends. The world outside continued to move, but inside my heart, time had stopped. Even the sunlight felt cruel, too bright for my darkness. I kept the curtains closed. I didn't want to see the world that dared to keep living when my mother couldn't. Then, one morning, my father knocked on my door. "Rahan," he said softly, "please, open the window." I didn't answer. He knocked again. "Just for a minute, son. Let some light in." Still, I stayed silent. When he walked away, I sat in the darkness, staring at that window. Hours passed. Then something deep inside whispered, "Open it." I stood up slowly. My hands trembled as I pulled the curtain aside, and then a burst of golden light filled my room. It was almost blinding at first, but as my eyes adjusted, I saw something that made my heart stop. Outside, across the street, there was a small garden. In that garden sat a little girl in a wheelchair, her fragile hands reaching toward a butterfly. She missed it, but she laughed a soft, pure laugh that carried through the wind. Her smile was weak, but her eyes were full of life. For the first time in months, I felt something move inside me, a tiny spark. Asterisk, asterisk. I didn't know who she was, but the next day, I found myself sitting near the window again. And the next day, and the next. Every morning she came to that garden. Even when it rained, even when the wind blew hard, she was there. Sometimes her mother pushed her chair near the flowers. Sometimes she came alone, rolling slowly, carefully, but always smiling. She couldn't walk, yet she looked happier than anyone I knew. One day, I finally gathered the courage to wave at her. She looked up and instantly waved back as if she had been waiting for that one small gesture. That one wave changed everything. From that day onward, I opened my window every morning. I started noticing small things again, the sound of birds, the smell of wet soil, the golden color of sunlight on my face. And every time I saw her, I felt a little more alive. Her name, I later learned, was Sarah. Her mother called her one afternoon, and that's how I heard it. Sarah loved to draw. She would sit in her chair, sketching butterflies, stars, and flowers in bright colors. Once she looked up at me and shouted, "Hey, why don't you open your window wider? The light is beautiful." Her laughter echoed across the street, and for the first time since my mother died, I smiled. Days passed, weeks passed, but this time I wasn't hiding from the world. I was returning to it slowly, gently. Sarah became my silent teacher. She didn't know my pain, but she showed me that life doesn't stop for sorrow. One afternoon, dark clouds covered the sky. Rain began to fall heavily. People ran for shelter, but Sarah stayed. She lifted her hands toward the sky and laughed as raindrops touched her face. That sound, her laughter, broke something inside me. The wall around my heart began to fall. The next morning, I leaned out of my window and called, "You really love the rain, don't you?" She looked up and shouted, "Yes, because it feels like the sky is talking to me." Her words stayed in my heart for days. I realized she was right. Maybe the sky talks to all of us, but we stop listening when we lose hope. Weeks later, I finally went outside and met her face to face. She smiled brightly and said, "You finally came out." We talked for hours. She told me she had been in a wheelchair since she was 10 after a serious illness, but she never gave up. She said, "If I can still smile, Rahan, then so can you. If I can see light sitting in this chair, then you can find it standing on your own 2 feet." That night, I sat by my window and looked at the stars. For the first time in months, I prayed, not for my mother to return, but for the strength to live the way she would have wanted me to, finding the light again. A few months later, I picked up my paintbrush again. My mother used to love my paintings. I drew the garden, the flowers, the sunlight, and the little girl with her bright smile. I titled it "The Window of Hope." When Sarah saw it, her eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "You found your light again." And I smiled and said, "You showed me where to look." Years passed. Sarah moved to another city for treatment. We promised to stay in touch, but life has its own plans. Sometimes letters don't reach. Sometimes time fades connections. I never saw her again. But every morning, I still open my window. The same sunlight enters. The same breeze touches my face, and every time it does, I feel her smile. Sometimes I talk to my mother softly through that window. I tell her, "Amy, I found hope again. Through a girl who couldn't walk, but helped me stand up." And somehow, in that soft wind that brushes my face, I feel her blessing, gentle, silent, eternal. Rainbow Moral Perfect for YouTube narration. Even in darkness, a single window of light can change everything. Sometimes hope doesn't come from strength, it comes from a weakness that refuses to die. No matter how broken you are, remember this: open your window, let the light in. Hope will find you, because even in the deepest night, the smallest ray of light can guide you home.